Good morning, guys. Welcome back. Since I can't be with you, let's check your homework remotely. So get out your homework, and you had assignments 1, 3, and 5 on the Practice 6-2 worksheet to start with. So let's look at those. Number 1 said y equals x plus 2. Number 3 was y equals 2x minus 1. And number 5, so remember that I want to find where y equals mx plus b, where m is my slope and b is my y-intercept. So I'm going to look at each of these equations where I have y equals some x plus something else. And so here we need to identify our m and our b, and we need to do that for each one. And hopefully you had this, you followed all the directions, because you are such good readers and you can follow directions like champs. So my slope, hopefully you notice that you have a 1 here beside my x. So my slope here is going to be 1, which means that my change in my y over my change in my x is 1 over 1. And hopefully you notice that this positive 2 here is my b, meaning that I'm going to intersect my y-axis up here at 2. And from there, I'm going to use my slope to count up 1 and over to the right 1. I'm going to go up and to the right since it's positive, and since my slope is still positive, if I go down, I also have to go to the left because it's negative and negative, which gives me a positive. Remember, negative 1 over negative 1 is the same thing as 1 over 1. So I get these 3 points. I'm going to grab a piece of paper or a ruler, and I'm going to draw a nice straight line. My next one, my m is going to equal 2, which means that the change in my y is 2 for every change in x, which is 1. This is the same as negative 2 and negative 1. So let's keep that in mind. Let's look for our y-intercept. Well, here, it's not just 1, it is a negative 1. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to use green for this one. I'm going to find my negative 1. Hopefully you got this point graphed. And I am going to go up 2. And since it's positive, I'm going to go next to the right 1. And I get this point. And then I'm going to come down 2. And since it's negative, in order to get it positive, I've got to go to the left 1. And I'm going to draw a nice through it. And I should have something that looks kind of like that. All right, and then my third one, my slope is 1/2. Now remember, when I have 1/2, that means that my change in my y is my 1. And my change in my x is 2. That is also the same thing as negative 1 and negative 2. And my b, where I'm going to start on my y-axis, is negative 4. So I'm going to find negative 4. I'm going to do this one in orange. All right, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. And my slope is 1/2, so I'm going to go up 1 and over 2. So that should be here. And then I'm going to go down 1. And if this is down, I've also got to go negative 2 right here. So my 3 points should look something like this. Remember to go just outside my points a little bit and draw an arrow. Hopefully these were no problem. You got these down. Let's check your next set. All right, in 25 to 27, you were told to write an equation of a line with a given slope and the y-intercept. Remember that you were writing an equation in y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. So knowing that, hopefully you have y equals 4x plus 8, and y equals negative 2x plus negative 6, which should hopefully be simplified to be negative 2x minus 6. And again, y equals 4/3 x. And that's it, because my b is 0. Hopefully these went pretty fast for you, and you got all of these correct. Remember, my m is my slope, and my b is my y-intercept, and it should be in this form. Well done. All right, let's look at your next part of your assignment from homework. Hopefully you remembered that you have these two, 37 and 38, with these directions. All right, so if I'm told to write the slope-intercept form of the equation for each line, what is slope-intercept form? Well, hopefully at this point you could recite this in your sleep, and it's y equals mx plus b, where m is my slope and b is my y-intercept. That's why it's called slope-intercept form. All right, let's look at this line. Remember, Bella, my dear, that we want to start by finding places where I exactly have clear x and y intersections. So let's find a y-intersection. Well, it intercepts my y-axis right here. Okay, and let's find another point. You could have chosen this point, or this point, or this point. I really like it when I have places that intersect my x and my y. So let's look at this. What do I know my b is? Right here. Well, where it intersects my graph is at 3 on my y-axis. This is 0 for my x, 3 for my y, so b equals 3. Now I need to find slope, and in order to do that, I'm going to have to go down to my next point. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go down. I go down 1, 2, 3. Double check that these are by ones. Is this 2? Yes, it is. So 1, 2, 3. So this is down by 3. And I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3. So I went down 3 and over 3. So both of these are negative. So remember that my slope is the change in my y over the change in my x. And here the change in my y is negative 3. I went down 1, 2, 3. And then I went to the left, so again it's negative 1, 2, 3. If I simplify this, my slope is positive 1. So now I actually need to finish out what the directions say. Remember to read your directions. And I want to actually write the slope-intercept form. So I'm going to put it in this equation. So for this one, y equals 1x plus 3. Let's look over at 38. Okay, here again, I want to start by finding my b. Well, this is pretty easy. My b is right here. All right, b is 3. And now I need to find slope, and slope is the difference in my y over the difference in my x. Does my y change? Do I go up or down at all? No. There is no change in y. Now, if there's no change in y, does my x change? Yes, it changes infinitely. It's always changing. Oh, no. So how on earth am I going to write this? Well, fortunately, I don't need to represent my change in x, because I know if there's no change in y, that's 0 over my change in x. And 0 divided by any number, 0 divided by 2 is 0. 0 divided by 50 is 0. So my slope, because it's 0 divided by x, 0 is my top number, my slope is simply 0. How do I put this into slope equation? Well, if my m is 0, it's just 0. And what is my b? It's 3. Well, remember that any number times 0 is 0. So it is simply y equals 3. That's my answer. And everywhere, see, this is on my y-axis. Everywhere y is 3. It's 3 when x is 1. It's 3 when x is 2. It's 3 when x is 3. It's going to be 3 when x is negative, because y simply equals 3. This is a situation where you have a slope of 0. Hopefully you guys got that and you didn't get too tricked out by it. All right, at this point I want you to continue and I want you to finish this page. Be careful. You might get some that look like y plus 1/4 x equal -4. What you're going to have to do here is you're going to have to get it into a point where you get y equals mx plus b, where y is on one side of my equation and my x is on my other, as is my b. Here, my y and my square are on the same side. That doesn't work for me. I need to get y by itself. How do I do that? Well, go back to your basic algebra. You've got to subtract 1/4 x. Can I subtract 1/4 x from 4? No. So I'm just going to bring this guy straight down. -4 minus 1/4 x. Keep your equal sign in a straight line. 1/4 x minus 1/4 x gives me 0x. And y plus 0x is simply y equals -4 minus 1/4 x. Now you have to make sure you rewrite this so you're in this form with my square part first. So y equals -1/4 x minus 4. Hopefully this helps. Watch out for these. Make sure you have it in this form. If you're struggling with it, do not be ashamed to use shapes. Let's do one as an example, just all together. Let's look at doing, let's do 23. No, which do I want? Let's do 12. No, 10. Let's say I get y minus 6 equals -2x. Well, remember, if shapes help you, use shapes. I have y. I've got my x is over here. That's my square. My constant is my triangle. So if I have y minus 6 equals -2x, I need to get y by itself, so I have to add 6 to both sides. I cannot add my 6 to my 2x. 6 does not have an x with it, so it's got to be added separately. And -6 and +6 cancel out. Y equals -2x plus 6. At this point, you should be able to identify that 2 is my slope and 6 is my y-intercept. So when I go to graph something like this, I'm going to graph it like this. I'm going to find my intercept first. My intercept is all the way up here at 6. And then my slope is -2. Remember, slope is change in y over my change in x, which means it's going to change -2 for every 1. Or it could be a +2 for every -1. You need to do it both ways. So if I start with -2 over 1, I'm going to go down 2. And then I'm going to go over 1 positive right here. And then I need to go back up to my intersection point. And I want to go up 2 and 1 to the left because it's negative. And I should get a line that looks like this. Again, I don't care if you do about 4 different graphs on one graph as long as you label them. This is number 10. So you can add a couple more on here. Be careful, have fun, and I will see you later.